People are starving, and they don't care. They don't care. That pisses me off to the highest fullest, knowing that these people do not care about the common man and woman in this country.
Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah. King.
Welcome to the Heineken Hour. Politics. Heineken. Good conversation. I don't think you really get that whole concept. Politics. Heineken. Good conversation. I don't think you really get that whole concept.
Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah. King.
Welcome to the Heineken Hour.
Yeah.
On King Live.
Yeah. Yeah.
On King Live.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
share, and subscribe.
Yeah. Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah. King.
Welcome to the Heineken Hour. Let's get drunk. Salute, salute. Let's get drunk. Salute, salute. Let's get drunk. Salute, salute. Let's get drunk. Salute, salute.
Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah. King.
Welcome to the Heineken Hour. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Like,
Yeah.
share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
share, and
Yeah.
subscribe.
Yeah.
Aye,
Yeah.
Go calm,
Yeah.
go calm,
aye,
Yeah.
go calm,
Yeah.
go calm,
aye,
Yeah.
go calm,
aye,
Yeah.
go calm,
aye,
Yeah.
go calm,
aye,
Yeah.
go calm.
Yeah. King.
Let's get drunk.
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 Welcome to the Heineken Hour with Conking Live.
What's going on, Tanya? What's going on, Super? What's going on? What's going on, y'all? Now, y'all know I usually don't come over here unless I got something to talk about. So today I have something to talk about. You know, I might not come on YouTube and do live videos or do videos that much anymore, but I still sit back and I watch the sector. I watch what goes on in the sector. And I was listening to John, I'm gonna call names. I was listening to John, and I had listened to Armando, and I had listened to Suge, and I had listened to Queen's Throne, and they was talking about the Suge situation, which I'm not gonna get in depth with the Suge situation, but what I want to talk about is something that John said, and I'm not gonna quote him, so I'm gonna pretty much paraphrase what he said. He said something to the fact as, what is the girl's responsibility when it comes to having sex when you're underage? And the girl is 14 years old. And it made me think, why would a grown man try to put on what's up, T? Put responsibility on a 14-year-old girl having sex with someone who's 18 or 19 years old? Why would that even matter? Why would that even come out your mouth, in a sense? To me personally, I know everybody got different views. Everybody gonna think different. And that's why I came on, because I want to hear other people's opinion on this subject. Do y'all feel like a 14-year-old should bear some of the responsibility of laying down with an older guy? Or even in the reverse, should a 14-year-old male be held responsible for having sex with a female who's 18, 19, 20 years old? And that's why I came on, because I want to know, because myself personally, my view, when you're 14 years old, your mind is not developed enough. All right, let me rephrase that. I feel like at 14 years old, you can be manipulated into doing things that you shouldn't be doing at that age. And I feel like that's why the laws are the way they are. Because if you're older, you're able to manipulate someone who's younger. You know, and I don't see where a 14-year-old should be responsible for that issue. What's up, the Prince? I don't see it. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out, why would a grown man make that statement? Why would a grown man want to hold a 14-year-old accountable for having sex with an older guy? Now, I understand we see 14, 15-year-old little girls running around and they seem like they mature. They seem like they're capable of making adult decisions. But in reality, the average 14-year-old, 15-year-old is not average. It's not capable of making those decisions, because we all know how to groom a person. If you want to groom a person, you give them gifts. You give them, you buy them gifts here, you buy them gifts there, you make them feel special. That's what older men do to younger women. So there's no way in the hell I'm gonna sit here and blame a 14-year-old for having sex with someone much older than she is. I can't do it. To me, it doesn't make sense. You know, and I just feel like some people need to think before they open their mouths. A child is a child, no matter how grown she might act, but that's a child. Now, also, I'm from Georgia, and when I was growing up, I seen an incident like this, where a older guy who was a teenager still, but he got somebody 14-year-old pregnant, and that guy actually went to prison for a couple years. I think he was like 18 years old, and she was 14 years old, and this back in the 80s, and he went to prison just due to the fact that he was 18 and she was 14. It was statutory rape. They had a baby, and he got her pregnant. That's another key point. He did get her pregnant, and he went to prison for a couple years behind that. So in a lot of these states, you cannot consent to having sex with no one at 14 and 15 years old. No matter how grown you might think you are, the law states that you are a child. You do not have the ability to make that decision. And that's just where it is. But like I say, everybody is different. Everybody, feel a certain way. But I want to hear, I wish I can get females up in here, and because I would love to hear from a female's point of view how they feel about a 14-year-old pretty much being asked what is that 14-year-old female responsibility is when it comes to having sex. And I know the Prince, I know you got kids, I know you got a daughter, I believe. How would you feel if your daughter at 14 years old had sex with someone who was 18 years old? Would you feel that it was her responsibility as much as the older guy's responsibility? Because I know my daughters, when they was 14, if they had sex with an older guy, I'm going after the guy. I'm gonna make sure the guy is prosecuted. Because I know that my daughter is 14 and she's a child, in a sense, to the point where she's easily manipulated. And that's what predators do. They manipulate these kids to get what they want by buying them this and buying them that. And it doesn't make sense to me. And I would love to talk to John also. I would love to hear John's point of view, why he would actually sit here and put the blame somewhat on the female who's 14 years old. But in this day and time, we live in a world where we don't think, we don't really understand what we're saying until we go back and listen to what we said. Well, when you talk about lying about your age, that's one thing. But a lot of times when a female lies about her age, a lot of times you can tell that they're still young. Well, Lurker, he said, like I said, I'm not gonna get into detail with the whole detail with Suge, because that's something totally different. I don't even want to get into that. But John was saying that the 14-year-old that was involved with Suge at the time should bear some of the responsibility. That's basically what he said in so many words. Because he said, what about the 14-year-old? What is her responsibility in this? And that kind of like, it struck a nerve with me. because I couldn't understand why would he even fix his mouth to even question the responsibility of a 14-year-old. She's 14. She's a child. We all was 14 at one point in time. We all know how immature we was, and we all know some of the things we did at 14. We wasn't thinking as an adult. We wasn't thinking with a mature mindset. And you know, and that's the whole thing about it. And it's to the point where I just don't get adults in this world today. And honestly, he's not the only one. Because like I said, I listened to Queen Throne. I listened to her whole life. I listened to the whole situation. And she was pretty much blowing it off, you know? So I honestly, in today's world, I don't get adults. I don't understand adults. You know, I don't understand the mindset of some of the people that you come in contact with on YouTube. You know, my thing is, you should always think about when you was 14 and you was 15. What was your mindset like? Do you think that you was old enough to make mature decisions about what's going on? Yeah, I heard that too. Girls mature faster than guys, you know, and it's to the point where that's that lame excuse to try to justify certain things. They trying to justify certain things when it comes to that. And my thing is, people need to wake up and understand. A child is a child. Thank you, the Prince. That's something that we need to be teaching. Don't have sex until you get married, or don't have sex until you are physically able to support someone that you bring into this world. Those are the things we should be teaching. But as a community, as a Black community, we don't think that way sometimes. And that's what gets us in trouble. That's why we are in a lot of predicaments we're in today, because we're letting kids have kids, and those kids don't know how to raise those kids. And it's like a repeating cycle over and over again. You know, in today's world, if you look at a lot of these parents who are close in age to their kids, they're best friends. They're not raising their kids to be responsible, or they're not raising their kids to do the right thing in life. They're teaching their kids to live like they live, in a sense. You know, it takes maturity to raise a child. But I just feel like we need to stop saying things that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And I feel bad for some of these people, because it's like, what are you doing on YouTube saying certain things? But we all know some people, they tend to embellish. They tend to say things to get views, to get a click here and get a click there. But something when it comes to kids, that's something we need to stay away from. We need to stay away from talking about things you really don't get. Now, John is not a parent. He don't have any kids, so I can say, well, maybe he don't fully understand because he don't have a child to look upon. He don't have a child that he raised at the age of 13 and 14 years old, that he don't understand the mindset of that child, how that child acts, how that child is acting like she's in a candy store. She can't behave herself because she see all these glittery things, and she want those things. She's not thinking straight. Only thing she's thinking about is having this and having that. Her mind is not developed enough to understand that with this comes this, or with this comes that. You know, they don't think like that. You know, so I would never ever put the blame on a child of 14, 15 years old when they make a decision about having sex because they're not thinking rationally at that point in time. And a lot of kids are being manipulated. As a man who grew up in the 80s, trust me, when you're at that age, even when you're a man when you're a guy at 14, 15 years old, you're thinking about manipulating a female your age to have sex. So just imagine when you're 20 years old, what are you doing? You know, so I just don't see it. I wish John would come over here and have a conversation with me about this because I when he said it, I just turned off. Actually, I was gonna play the clip. I said, no, I'm not gonna even play the clip because I got the clip because he really pissed me off. He really did. I didn't understand. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna drop my link. If anybody want to come up here and chime in, you're more than happy to come up here and chime in because I would love to get someone else's opinion on this. Copy and no do post comment. Please. Yeah, so I would love to get somebody else's opinion on this. Let me go back out. What the fuck? I can't find my fucking other channel. YouTube is moving mighty slow. I don't know if it's YouTube or is it me. Because I'm looking at the chat. I see comments. I've had to read comments from the chat because it's not popping up on StreamYards. I don't know why. But there is nothing to understand that 14-year-olds shouldn't be having sex, much less with an adult. There is no discussion. Most definitely true, T. That's most definitely true. I don't know what's going on with StreamYard and YouTube, but they're not. I might have to read off my phone. What the legal age a child can be arrested? 10 years old. Well, super. It all depends. It depends. It depends on what the crime is, which in a sense is kind of crazy because the way the law is set up with kids now, it's all over the place. You know, it's all over the place. Yeah, yeah, to print. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of hunching. It was a lot of hunching at 12 and 10 and 12, but hunching. You know, it's like when you was 10 and 12, you was playing house and you was hunting through your clothes. So you know, but that shows you the maturity level also. You know, yeah, yeah, Lurker. I would love to hear from John. I really would. What is going on with my chat though? What the fuck going on here? My chat is not even moving now. Even my YouTube. Hey, if y'all still here, please hit one because I'm not getting no comments on neither one of my stream yards. All right, Lurker is here, but there's nothing popping up on stream yards. I don't get it. Let me try something. All right, there we go. All right. I don't know what the hell going on. StreamYard is acting up. All right. But nah, though, I really want to talk to John. But John think he's a big YouTuber now, so he might not come over here when I ain't got but 10 people in the room because he think he's a big YouTuber now. So, you know, he's one of these people who actually think they're bigger than what they really are. So, you know, some of these guys, man, I sit back, some of these guys I sit back and watch these channels, and these guys actually think that they're really big YouTubers. They really think that they really are too good to go to a smaller platform, you know, smaller than their platform, even though they ain't got about 2,000 subs themselves. But that's another discussion for another day. You know, it is what it is. But I'm not trying to start no beef with no one, and that's one reason why I'm staying away from the Suge situation altogether. I'm not even trying to get into the Suge situation, you know, and that's why I'm just focusing on someone saying that the 14-year-old should bear some of the responsibility for having sex with an older guy. You know, that's why I'm keeping it generic. You know, and I just want to know the mindset of people who think like that. You know, why would you say that? What made you think that 14-year-old bears responsibility for having sex with an older guy? You know, and that's all I really want to know. No more, no less. You know, like I said, it's not about beefing with no one. It's not about trying to start beef. It's just me asking a question. What is your mindset? You know, why would you say that? You know, why would you even think that way to the point where you have people like myself questioning your motive? You know, are you just trying to defend someone, or do you really mean that? You know, because you can't take it that he may have been trying to defend Suge when he said it, but at the same time, it's like, still, what is the purpose of you saying it to the point where that's a 14-year-old baby? I'm not gonna say a baby, but that's a 14-year-old child. You know, maybe I should have tagged John in this, and maybe he would have came over if I tagged him in this, and I could have had a conversation with him. Because I believe I'm kind of blocked from his channel anyway. I think he blocked me a long time ago. Oh. But like I said, I ain't got too much to say. I just came over here to say that. I thought maybe I could get a conversation going, but it is what it is. And for some reason, StreamYard is acting up because I ain't getting no messages but on my phone. Well, you know what? Eh, But but you know what, the Prince, I got to read off my phone now because YouTube, man, um, for some reason, StreamYard is not giving me the messages. I don't know why. I don't know. I have to read off my phone.
You can't see the comments. I can up here.
I can't see the comments. I can't see the comments on my phone from StreamYards, but I can see them on my other phone that I'm looking on YouTube. But I can't see like your comments. That your comments share when you said share your community wall. That's not
Mm-hmm.
on. I can't see that on StreamYard. I can see it on my phone, which
Hmm.
is kind of weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird. But
Yeah, that is weird.
so what do you think about that, Lurker?
Well, you should already know what time it is, okay?
Yeah,
It is
I already know.
there's no excuse for this. But you're right though, because I would like to pick the mind of someone that feels that way too. Just to maybe not have an understanding, but maybe just to, hear where their thought process is coming from. In this day and well, I won't even say in this day and age, for the past few decades, we've thrived on promiscuity. We indulge, we engage. You said you was growing up in the 80s. We'll bring it up to the 90s, early 2000s when everybody was hyped to get the R. Kelly sex tape, right?
Yeah. That's
That
true.
was a
That's
that was
true.
a hot thing in the streets.
And if you think about the R. Kelly tape, no one did anything about that. He wasn't
Nobody.
shunned. He wasn't shunned because of that tape, even though everybody knew it was him, and everybody knew there was an underage girl. People still bought his albums, went to his concerts, and did what they needed
Mhm.
to do to make money. So we live in a strange world, and I think we live in a world where we said one thing, but then we ignore it, and then we go back and we praise the same people, and that's what makes it worse. And I think that's why a lot of these things that happens, people don't care about because
No.
we keep giving people passes. We keep giving people
Mhm.
passes, and that's why I say I'm not going to really get into the Shook situation. But my thing is, when you have a guy who tells you that he did this, and everybody just ignore it, it's like we are saying it's okay. It's okay. That's what they're saying. They're saying it's okay. And you know me, I don't like getting into that type of conversation with people because unless I got some evidence, because I don't like accusing people of that P word unless something is really going down. You know what I'm saying? Unless I
Mm.
got some proof because I've been accused. So it's like I'm not gonna throw that word out there. And that's one reason why I don't like touching that subject with Suge. Even though a lot of people have, and he have even admitted himself, even though he said that the girl lied to him and they was in the club. But when you really break it down, it's kind of hard to believe the story a little bit because I heard the whole story yesterday on Queen Throne, and I just, a lot of stuff don't add up. But my thing is not even about that. It's like, when are we gonna start standing up for kids? When are we gonna start realizing these kids need to be protected, and we need to stop making excuses for these older guys taking advantage of younger girls? Because that's what's going on.
And it's not
Because
just older men taking advantage of young girls. There's also women predators as well.
that is true also. That is most, but you know what? That's the taboo right there. That's the whole thing that we need to get away from because we give women passes for messing with younger guys. We give
Mm-hmm.
them passes, and that's something we need to stop. Because
Mm-hmm.
honestly, if you're an older woman and you're messing with a 14 or 15-year-old guy, it's no different. It should be no different than an older guy messing with a 14, 15-year-old girl. But we give the woman a pass because it's a male, and that goes back to that male masculinity thing. That's something that
Mm-hmm.
we smack, we give each other pounds. Oh, you did that, man. How old she was, man? She was 20 years old, and you got that. It's like we celebrate that shit, and,
Mm-hmm.
and we shouldn't be doing that because it's wrong on both
Mm-hmm.
ends. It's wrong. It's bottom line. It's wrong. But that's something that the culture have developed. We developed it in a culture that we are okay as a younger man to mess with an older woman, or an older woman to mess with a young man, and
Right.
and, and that's something we shouldn't be doing because it's all wrong. Age 'cause a male is just as immature as a female is at 14, 15 years old. So it is what it is. But my thing is, I want to talk to somebody who thinks this way. I want to talk to somebody who has that mindset. It's okay for a 14-year-old to have sex with an older guy or older woman. And if she do or he do, they need to be held responsible also for the act. And that's what I want to do. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna see kind of tag John right quick, and
Okay.
see kind of get him over here and say we applaud our sons for dating older. At least I would. see, the Prince got that mindset. see, but see that's most males' mindset though. They will pick up them. But is that
Oh,
right or
you're
is that
right.
wrong?
The chat isn't pulling up. It was at
Yeah,
first.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
pulling up at all. I don't know what's going with this. Let me see kind of tag John.
Well, I was watching recently this lady Queen Op and her girlfriend and Shell. Some big stuff happened yesterday where she got arrested, but I was combing through some of her prior videos, and she's pregnant right now with a girl. And Queen Op, she's a do you know who Queen Op is?
I'm not sure. I heard it. I think that's somebody I heard on ZX channel when I was just there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who she is. So.
Well, she's a known prostitute. She proudly, admits it and pulling tricks and stuff. But anywho, she's pregnant with a child right now with a girl. And she was saying on one of her live streams, she was saying that she's going to raise her daughter to be independent, even if she got to go sell her poom poom, even if she got to go pull tricks. She's going to encourage her daughter to do so. So I think some of this is just how people are raised. They don't know no better.
So this lady is saying that out loud, that she's going to allow her child to be independent, and she's going to allow her to do what she want to do, even when it comes to selling her body.
Yes.
See, to me personally, that's child abuse.
Yes, it is.
I think a person like that shouldn't be allowed to have a child. Honestly, a person like that should be neutered. Because you got to understand, it's to the point where it's like, see, this is why the Black community have a hard time changing the mentality in the Black community, because we said some of the most stupid things. You came up selling your pussy, excuse my language. So now you want to say it's okay for your daughter to sell her pussy. How about telling your daughter to get an education? How about selling your pussy to start a college form account for your daughter? You know what I'm saying? I would never ever sit here and say I want my child to grow up to be a prostitute. You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, man. We are supposed to teach our kids to do better than us. If you grew up to be if you was a prostitute, why would you want to put your daughter on her back like you have? You have all these different type of men going in and out of you. That's ridiculous. That's child abuse.
And the baby's not even born. So what is that telling the predators that are watching her? Her
daughter's up for sale already.
Yep.
Already.
Exactly.
Already up for sale.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's very sad that we got people like that having kids. It's very sad that we actually have to sit here and have a discussion about a grown woman who don't want to break that cycle. Don't want to break the cycle. It's all about breaking the cycle. My thing is, if you want to sell your pussy, but do something with that money to benefit your child in a positive way. Don't have your child doing the exact same thing you're doing. And that's the whole thing. It's like breaking the cycle. And that's something we don't do. We don't want to do. We don't want to break that cycle. We want our kids to grow up like we did.
Exactly.
In the ghetto, on welfare, doing something that we shouldn't be doing. Living that street life. It's like you have to break the cycle. And these kids are growing up and they seeing their parents. Cause a lot of these parents are the same age as their kids, to be honest with you. You got grandmothers now in their 40s. When I was growing up, my grandmother, she was in her almost 60 years old when she died. And that was back in the 80s when I was like 14 years old. So it's to the point where it's like we are teaching our kids to behave the way we are behaving. You know, it's like YouTube. Take YouTube for instance. We talk about these young kids out here doing what they're doing, but look at the way we behave on YouTube. We behave no different than they do. A lot of these people, in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s, and they still behaving like they're in their teenage years. You know, look at your grandpa Gorilla Boots over there. You know, come on, dude, grow the fuck up. You're almost 60 years old. You shouldn't be hanging out with people half your age. You know what I'm saying? What are you doing? You know, but the whole thing about it is, until we change our mentality and our behavior, they're not going to change. There's no way you can make a person change their behavior when they see a grown man who's a grandfather or almost in their 60s behaving like he's a teenager. You can't tell that young man over there he need to change his behavior when you're doing the same thing he's doing. You know, but it is what it is. But my thing is, we need to change our behavior. We need to understand that we are doing more harm to our own community than any white man, any Hispanic, any Asian could ever do to us today. Because we are doing this to ourselves. Look at us. We're sitting having a conversation about a 14-year-old being held responsible for having sex with an older guy. We should not be having this conversation. Everybody should be outraged about that. Everybody.
But I mean, it would fall back more on the 14-year-old's parents than it would the 14-year-old, you would think.
Right. That is true. But
you would think you would question her parents and the guy before you would question the 14-year-old. But that's just me.
But see, that's the problem. See, when you're dealing with people like John, they don't think that way. Only thing they see is, damn, what about the 14-year-old? Why is she not being held responsible for having sex?
And I've also heard this excuse. I've also heard, I don't hear this word too much, but when I was growing up, I heard it all the time. Oh, she moving fast. Oh, she fast. You know, and they're talking about 14 to 16-year-old girls. Oh, she moving fast. She wanted it. And look how she dressed. And look how she's acting.
And that goes back to what you were saying about the parent also. The parent allowed her to dress that way. The parents allow her to do what she do. But like you said, this queen, what her name?
Queen Op?
Queen Ops. See, those type of parents allow their kids to run around the streets with short booty shorts on and all this nonsense on at age 14, 15, 16. That's where they get it from.
Yep.
And my thing is, as a grown-ass man, you should not be trying to take advantage of that. Even though you see her dressed that way, you should turn around and say, look, sweetheart, you need to go put some clothes on. You need to go do something with yourself. That's not the way you should be behaving. But see, back in the day, we could do that. In today's society, we can't do that today. We can't sit here and tell another child that they're behaving badly or they're dressing inappropriately, because now we are putting ourselves in the line of fire. Because we're gonna get yelled at by that stupid, dumb parent. You know, and that's another thing too. The parents are taking up for these bad behaviors also. And I know me and the Prince. I'm trying to read the comments. I know me and the Prince had this conversation about discipline, and I know the Prince said that he don't want no one else checking his kids in the street. You know, and I understand that. But when I was growing up, you was able to be checked by another adult. You know what I'm saying? You didn't have to know the parents per se, but if someone seen a kid out in the street doing something wrong, that other parent, grown up, can check them. And my mom wouldn't say anything, because if I was wrong, I was wrong.
Right.
You know, so, and you're right, Prince, you can't really control everything your child do outside the house, but you can minimize it though. You can minimize
there you go. There you go.
Minimize it. You're not going to control it 100%, but you can minimize it by teaching them good values. You can minimize it by telling them, look, think about this right here. When I was growing up, if I seen a stranger, I said, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Because that's what I was taught from my home. See, you can minimize the behavior. You can still teach them to respect themselves and respect adults around them. And that's what it's all about, respect. But a lot of times in this new age of raising kids up, we don't teach kids to respect the elders. We don't teach kids to go out in the streets and try to behave properly. We all know teenagers are going to behave the way that teenagers do. We always, teenagers at one point in time, we all tried to push the limits, but at the same time, we knew what the limits was, you know. But in today's society, it's very hard to do that. How you doing, Griffin? But the whole thing about it is we need to understand what's going on around us. And a 14-year-old male or female do not have the right to consent to sex. And they most definitely should be having sex with anybody who's an adult, no matter what. Because they're not mature enough to understand what they're getting themselves into. Because the only thing they're doing is living for the moment, living for the minute. Somebody will show them a shiny diamond, and the only thing they see is that shining diamond, because their mind is not capable of understanding what that person is trying to do to them. That person is trying to manipulate them. The person is trying to groom them to get what they want because they're older.
Mm-hmm.
And they have that type of influence over the 14, 15-year-old. That's why you see all these teachers now getting caught. You know, these high school teachers getting caught with these kids. You know, because the boys get caught up with these older teachers, and the only thing they see is their teacher will give me some poo nanny. The teacher will give me some poo nanny. And oh, she's sexy. She's sexy because he's thinking as a teenager. He's not thinking about what's going to happen down the road. Only thing he sees is this older one will give me some poo nanny. That's it. That's all he's thinking about. But nah, though, I'm like I said, I just came up for a second. I really wanted to talk to John, and I really wanted to talk to someone. I need to start doing more lives, so if I get my audience back, and more people start coming back around. But I appreciate everybody who came through. Thank you, Lurker, for coming up.
Always.
You kind of saved me a little bit, sweetheart. So thank you for coming up.
Always.
And like I said, I'm gonna start doing more shows. That way I get my audience back, and hopefully more people start to participate. But my whole thing is, y'all, if y'all see these dirt bags out there accusing these teenagers or trying to accuse these teenagers of not being responsible, just understand, you shouldn't be holding teenagers responsible for their actions. You should be holding these adults. They're grown, mature adults. And no matter what you tell me, I would never hold a teenager responsible for some adult con her into doing. Never. But thank you guys for stopping by. Until next time, I see y'all. Salute to y'all. That is true. You teach, and it's up to them to hold on to what you taught them. So with that said, y'all have a good night. I mean, a good day, rather.